Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Jeffrey Salant. I am the HOA Information Officer for the Division of Real Estate, which is a division of the Colorado Department of Regulatory Agencies, also known as DORA. This morning, we are going to talk about community association management, specifically some of the differences between self-management and professional management, as well as some best practices with regards to both. There are 3 handouts attached to this webinar: a PDF copy of this presentation, a copy of the Colorado Common Interest Ownership Act, also known by its initials, CCIOA or Kiowa, and a copy of the Colorado Nonprofit Act. You may download them by clicking on the blue links located under the Handouts tab on the GoToWebinar control panel. Please note that the information provided during this presentation is for educational purposes only and is not meant to provide or to be construed as legal advice. Any legal questions should be directed to your attorney. Before we get into the presentation topics, I want to take a few moments to talk with you about my office, the HOA Information and Resource Center. The HOA office is a statutorily created office, and my position, the HOA Information Officer, is appointed by the Director of the Division of Real Estate. Per statute, the HOA office provides information to homeowners regarding their basic rights and responsibilities under the Kiowa. It gathers, analyzes, and reports information through complaints and HOA registrations, and writes an annual report to the legislature. It creates resource materials, provides education, and presents HOA forums, maintains a website with information for the public, and registers HOAs. As for what my office does not do, the HOA office is not a regulatory program. It does not mediate or arbitrate. It cannot provide legal advice. It does not act as an advocate. It cannot assess fines or penalties, and does not enforce an HOA's failure to register. Bit of a disclaimer with respect to today's specific presentation. As we move through today's presentation, please keep in mind that the information provided is very general in nature. In discussing the differences between management styles, I may mention different services that are typically provided by professional community association managers. We call them CAMs, C-A-M for short. So if you hear me refer to CAMs, I'm referring to community association managers. This does not mean that every CAM in Colorado offers these same services or that every CAM will provide the same level of service. It's important that prior to hiring a professional CAM, the board of an association carefully consider the issues that we discussed today. Additionally, discussing the matter with your association's membership will help you obtain valuable feedback on the issue. If you do decide to hire a professional CAM, be sure to thoroughly conduct your research, including examining available reviews on all of the various prospective CAMs that you may be interested in hiring. Moving on to what was CAM regulation and the current lack thereof, community association manager licensing and regulation existed in the form of the CAM program, housed in the Division of Real Estate from January 1st, 2015 to July 1st of 2019. In May of 2019, the Colorado General Assembly passed House Bill 19-1212, which concerned the recreation of the CAM licensing program. The bill would have continued the CAM licensing program administered by the division for 1 year. However, on May 31st of 2019, Governor Polis vetoed HB 19-1212, and the CAM program expired on June 30th of 2019. In addition to this veto, the governor also issued Executive Order D 2019-006, which directed a stakeholder process to examine community and homeowner associations. Currently, there is no regulatory oversight of HOAs or community association managers here in Colorado. So community association management, what is it? Well, it involves all aspects of operating a common interest community. In a self-managed community, the association will have to utilize volunteers, specifically the board of directors, to do most of the work. Everything from the management of the association's daily routine tasks to the enforcement of rules is going to be done by volunteers from within the association. The roles and responsibilities of the board can be generally divided into delegable duties and non-delegable duties. Delegable duties may be delegated to volunteers, while the board themselves must execute their non-delegable duties. So what is professional community association management? Well, generally speaking, it involves performing services as the agent of the board of an association. As agent, the CAM performs services in connection with some or all of the delegable duties of the board. These duties might include the collection of dues, enforcement of covenants, rules and regulations, the sending of notices, record retention and production, bookkeeping, drafting a proposed budget, filing insurance claims, assisting the board in coordinating meetings. These are just a few of the board's delegable duties. Some examples of non-delegable duties might include voting on community issues, voting on appeals of community violations, adopting a budget, waiving dues, fees, or fines levied by the association, and the like. So a more formal definition of community association management may be found in the repealed statute regarding community association management regulation. Again, while no longer law, community association management was previously defined in statute to mean certain practices relating to the management of a common interest community at the direction or on behalf of its executive board. Some of these practices included executing the resolutions and decisions of the executive board, administering or coordinating maintenance of the property or facilities of the common interest community, arranging, conducting, or coordinating meetings of the common interest community, and administering or otherwise exercising control of a common interest community's funds. One of the reasons that many people desire to live in an HOA is the perception that increased property values will come along with the community standards that are set by an association's covenants. But when members violate these covenants, these rules and these regulations, it's the duty of the board to enforce them. However, many board members work day jobs, which may limit the amount of resources that they are able to dedicate to covenant enforcement. Additionally, when conducted by board members, covenant enforcement frequently results in personal animosity towards individual board members, which may also lead some other members in the community to avoid seeking roles on the board because of this. Hiring a professional CAM often creates a buffer that allows the board to act in a more appellate manner. So since boards may not delegate their authority to vote on community issues, including appeals sought by members who have been alleged to have violated community rules, in professionally managed communities, these boards may review instances of violations that were issued by the professional CAM and then create a distinction between the enforcement and the adjudication of those covenants within a community. The Colorado Common Interest Ownership Act, again, also known as Kiowa, requires associations to maintain certain records for the purposes of record retention and production to owners. When properly requested, these associations must provide these records. In a self-managed community, the board will be responsible for maintaining and producing these records. This may be difficult for some communities if they don't have an established, reliable system to both house and reproduce records. However, in a professionally managed community, CAMs tend to have the existing systems in place that can be utilized to efficiently and effectively process record requests. Professional CAMs often tend to bring the most value when it comes to the financial services that they may provide. The collection of assessments requires the ability to receive payments and keep accurate records. work with attorneys and or collection companies in order to address delinquent accounts, or when the need to place a lien arrives. Usually, CAMs have the proper procedures in place in order to help assist with those types of things. When budgeting season rolls around and a professional CAM is on hand, they may be able to provide services related to the preparation of a draft budget. While it may seem like a rather minimal task, depending on the size of the association and the services it provides, creating a satisfactory budget, which is one that sufficiently covers costs while limiting any increases in dues, may be much more challenging than most think. Being the administrator of an association's bank accounts often requires the ability to maintain accurate account ledgers, balance sheets, and bank reconciliations. In a self-managed community, boards will need the requisite time, skill, and resources to accomplish all of these tasks. In a professionally managed community, a professional CAM may have the existing resources to easily manage these tasks along with the skill that experience usually brings them. The next consideration we'll discuss is elections. Pursuant to Section 38-33.3-310 of the Kiowa, associations must use secret ballots in elections where positions for the executive board are contested, or when the executive board decides to use them, or when 20% of owners present in person or by proxy at the meeting of the members request them to be used. This presents certain logistical challenges to facilitating association elections, even more so now that the pandemic has changed the way many associations hold elections. While associations have the right to hold virtual elections, they still must follow the rules associated with secret ballots. In self-managed communities, this means providing a way for your membership to submit ballots in a virtual meeting while remaining anonymous. In many professionally managed communities, CAMs will have access to software or other online services to assist in facilitating compliant elections, which are held in virtual meetings. When something goes wrong in a common interest community and repair or maintenance is needed, who is responsible? The association or the homeowner? Well, Sections 38-33.3-307 of Kiowa discusses that unless there is a statement to the contrary in the declaration, the association is responsible for the maintenance, repair, and replacement of the common elements of the association, which includes both general and limited common elements, and it is the owner's responsibility for the maintenance, repair, and replacement of such owner's unit. Board members or other volunteers in a self-managed community will be responsible for addressing maintenance issues. And this may not always be feasible, and many self-managed communities will have to utilize third-party maintenance professionals on an as-needed basis, which can be expensive. CAMs in professionally managed communities may have preferred maintenance professionals available to assist in the maintenance responsibilities of the association, and frequently this preferred relationship offers discounted services. This is something to ask about when shopping around for professional CAMs. The next consideration we will discuss is insurance. Section 38-33.3-313, subsection 1A and 1B of Kiowa, requires associations to obtain and maintain general liability and property insurance on the common elements. Since this will require consultation with an insurance professional, the experience will be somewhat similar for both self-managed and professionally managed communities. However, professionally managed communities and those professional CAMs may have a network of insurance professionals with whom they work, which may be able to bring some value to the process. However, the real value of a professional manager in an area of insurance comes into play once an insurance claim has been submitted. Many CAMs will offer services as a project manager for both insurance claims and construction defect claims. As part of this service, many CAMs will act as a liaison between the insurance company and the board. However, this type of service is typically defined in management agreements as an additional service with an additional cost. That cost is frequently seen in management agreements as a percentage of the insurance proceeds, or in the case of a construction defect action, a percentage of the amount awarded. Some additional considerations to think about when debating the hiring of a professional CAM come in the form of additional insurance requirements. Section 38-33.3-313, subsection 11 of Kiowa requires that any person employed as an independent contractor by an association with 30 or more units for the purposes of managing a common interest community must obtain and maintain fidelity insurance in an amount not less than 2 months' current assessments plus reserves. Some professional CAMs may already carry this coverage themselves, but many will also attempt to negotiate for the association to provide this coverage as part of their management agreement. Another consideration to mull over when debating the hiring of a professional CAM are the costs associated therewith. In most self-managed communities, the board is composed of volunteers. Some communities may elect to provide board members with a small stipend or a reduction or waiver of dues. However, this is less common. Regardless of how the community is managed, there will be certain operational costs associated with administering the business of the association. A self-managed community will need to procure each resource it needs individually. This might include office equipment, mailing material and resources, accounting software, and the like. In a professionally managed community, the largest costs come in the form of the management fee and any associated costs related to project management. However, professional management may be able to reduce an association's cost in relation to certain products and services which the CAM is able to procure at a lower cost due to the economies of scale. However, this will greatly depend on the size of the CAM business and the number of other communities they manage. Next, we'll discuss HOA registration. HOAs in Colorado must register with the Division of Real Estate and renew on a yearly basis. In short, this allows them to enforce assessments and conditions, covenants, and restrictions. For more detailed information on registration, please see section 38-33.3-401 of Kiowa. While the initial registration process does include several steps and requires the creation of both a designated agent profile as well as an HOA profile, the HOA Center has a terrific video tutorial on our website to assist. However, our office does receive just about daily requests for information regarding registration or renewal. The most common reason why someone reaches out to us regarding registration or renewal has to do with obtaining login credentials. So in self-managed communities, a board member will be responsible for keeping the association's registration current. This also includes the responsibility of effectively transferring ownership of that duty, along with any login credentials for the HOA, to the next responsible party when those roles change. CAMs will likely have experience with our systems, and many will communicate with us directly to obtain or reset existing association login credentials, which usually vitiates the need to contact any former board members in order to obtain that information. As with most decisions, it may be helpful to run through some of the general pros and cons of each management style. When it comes to self-management, the first pro would definitely be the lower monthly costs incurred by the association. While professional management fees will vary, it will inevitably be more expensive to hire a professional CAM than it would be to enlist volunteers for the board, even if those volunteers were to receive a small stipend or waiver or reduction in dues. Another pro of self-management is the full control that the board maintains over all of the operational aspects of the association. This is everything from covenant enforcement to the implementation of rules and regulations. In a self-managed community, the board may also be able to be more efficient and act more quickly, since they don't need to consult with a third-party manager. Finally, a big pro to self-management is the direct connection with homeowners that is typically lost with the buffer of a CAM. There's nothing about self-management specifically, professional management, which prohibits a board from seeking that connection with members. It's just less likely to occur organically in a professionally managed community, just because of that buffer that the CAM usually does have in between the board and the homeowners. The most obvious con of self-management is how time-consuming it can be when done properly. Time is the most valuable resource for many of us. If your community is not rife with individuals who have plenty of it, it may be difficult to recruit volunteers for board membership. The next con is the lack of management experience and expertise needed to effectively manage an HOA. While many professions require similar skills to that of community association management, if your community's board does not have the requisite knowledge and experience to ensure effective, efficient, and compliant governance of the association, problems may arise. Finally, in a self-managed community, there are inherently fewer external checks and balances. Since the executive board is the main decision-making authority in an HOA, boards in self-managed associations are only accountable to the membership, whose access to the board may be limited and whose authority over the board really only extends to their choice of candidate at the next election. In these circumstances, there is no party to act as an informal consultant on issues that may arise, and in extreme cases, board members' actions may lead to lawsuits and other legal problems. With regard to professional management, the first pro we'll discuss is the expertise and experience that may come with hiring a professional CAM. If the CAM that you contract with is seasoned, they may bring with them a certain amount of expertise and firsthand experience. They may have access to strategies, resources, and management tools which are unavailable to community volunteers. This usually translates into a level of service which self-managed communities are just unable to provide. Next is an overall improvement of quality of community living. This could be seen in a variety of ways, including a more accessible and amenable board, more well-kept landscaping, an overall improved community appearance, and effective communication with the membership. Finally, another pro might be the potential for decreased risk to the community. This may be seen in the form of a greater compliance with community rules and regulations, as well as local, state, and federal regulations. When considering the cons of professional management, the first consideration will likely be the cost. As discussed, even though professional management fees will vary, even though they vary, it will likely be more expensive to hire a professional CAM than it would be to enlist volunteers for the board. When hiring a professional CAM, the board will also experience a reduction in the amount of hands-on control that they would otherwise have. Most of this loss of control is in the area of covenant enforcement. While the board will always have the final say on a potential violation, a professional CAM is the first line of enforcement, which can frequently lead to our final con, increased potential for issues with homeowners. Since CAMs very frequently conduct covenant enforcement for their clients, many homeowners will have an increasingly negative perception of them. Next, we'll discuss some of the best practices involved in both styles of management. With regard to self-management, knowledge is your best friend. As a board member, you should have a detailed knowledge of your governing documents. Any sections which you do not fully understand should be discussed with legal counsel. And there are plenty of free resources available to all members of HOAs in Colorado. The HOA Information and Resource Center has an excellent website, which we work to improve on every day. You will find a large resource database containing everything from information on local and state laws pertaining to HOAs, education and training resources on board member roles and responsibilities, to previous HOA forums such as this one. Colorado has some terrific community association law firms as well. A quick Google search for the term Colorado Community Association Attorney will return a plethora of results regarding these law firms, many of which offer free access to HOA-related articles and guidance. Next, be sure to keep good records. Keeping track of your association's finances is an important part of self-management in an HOA. An HOA is, of course, a business organization. It receives revenues and incurs expenses. And like any good business, you must diligently record all financial transactions. This ensures accurate reporting to your membership and is vital to allowing you to determine your association's financial health. Encourage participation. An apathetic membership is less likely to volunteer for important positions on the board. Know when to outsource. Many self-managed communities are self-managed because they cannot afford professional management. This should not discourage the occasional use of professionals. Completing a project haphazardly to save some money could end up costing much more in the long run. Finally, assign specific responsibilities to each board member. When the operational duties of the association are delegated to specific individuals, business will tend to be handled more efficiently and effectively. On to the best practices associated with professional management, we also see that knowledge is your best friend. Hiring a professional CAM does not alleviate the board from their responsibilities. It simply allows them to delegate most of the day-to-day operational duties. This means that the board will still need to understand community, local, state, and federal rules and regulations. Next, do your research. Again, all CAMs are not created equally. Nowadays, customer reviews are easily available on the internet. There are popular platforms such as Yelp, Google, and the Better Business Bureau that are great tools for determining the efficacy of a potential CAM. Ask questions. When interviewing a potential CAM, ask as many questions as you can. What is their experience? How many other communities do they manage? How many managers work with them? Are they willing to let you speak with any of their other current clients? Be sure to be very comprehensive in your review of any management agreement prior to signing. This includes understanding any fees that may be charged and ensuring that a fee schedule is provided. Once you've hired a professional CAM, remember that they are there only to assist and that the board must still be involved in the community's governance. Communicate frequently with your CAM. Stay up to date on any issues that they're dealing with, and even consider establishing a fixed communication schedule. Continue to ask questions. Trust is an important part of the relationship between a CAM and the board, and effective communication will facilitate that trust. Asking questions can be a great way to sustain communication. Finally, avoid apathy. Boards in professionally managed communities can quickly become apathetic and disinterested. Remain active in the community, stay connected with your members, and quickly communicate any issues they are experiencing within the community to your CAM and consult with them on addressing those issues.